10 crazy paradoxes. Hey Crash, today we're going to learn about 10 crazy paradoxes.
As if I wasn't usually confused enough on this show.
The only thing I'm avoiding on this list is time paradoxes, because honestly, they're just dumb and they're all the same. So what better way to start off this list than with a paradox about logic itself? Number 10. Achilles and the Tortoise was first put forward by Lewis Carroll in 1895 in his dialogue, What the Tortoise Said to Achilles. While there are many paradoxes concerning these two characters, namely Zeno's paradoxes of motion, I'd rather focus on their discussion of infinite regression.
Another paradox being the whole, talking tortoise thing.
Essentially, the discussion undermines syllogisms, a form of logical reasoning. The argument is presented as two premises, which we will call A and B, and a conclusion, which we will call Z, which follows deductively. However, the tortoise shows that to accept the conclusion as true, one must first accept the premise that if A and B are true, then Z must be true. He asks Achilles to call this premise C. Now we have three premises and one conclusion. However, once again we must make a new premise that if A and B and C are true, then Z must be true. This premise is known as D. The paradox here is that we have to continue making these premises in order to accept the logic of a syllogism.
So the structure of the logical argument is illogical.
Pretty much. This infinite regression of premises can cause an issue for all logical arguments of this form, questioning whether we can trust the inferences made from such claims. Number 9. A catch-22 situation is one which has no escape due to conflicting rules. The name Catch-22 comes from a novel of the same name, written by Joseph Haller in 1961, regarding a fighter pilot in World War II. In the story, our protagonist Yossarian is informed by Dr. Nika that any soldier who wants to get out of combat duty can't be crazy, since to fear for their life is a rational thought process. Hence, whilst insanity is considered grounds for dismissal, the reality is that this rule is never enacted.
Wow, that sucks. But this sounds like one of those syllogism thingies you were talking about.
That's right. Premise A states that if you're crazy, then you'll be dismissed from service. But Premise B states that if you request to be considered crazy, then you aren't. Hence, you cannot be dismissed on the basis of claiming insanity. Another famous example goes like so. To get a job requires experience, but to get experience requires a job.
There's an easy workaround to that, though. Fake it till you make it, baby.
That was surprisingly eloquent of you. Number 8. The Epimenides paradox is a version of the liar paradox best explained by Thomas Fowler in 1869. As he puts it, Epimenides the Cretan says that all Cretans are liars, but Epimenides is himself a Cretan, therefore he is himself a liar. But if he be a liar, what he says is untrue, and consequently the Cretans are veracious. But Epimenides is a Cretan, and therefore what he says is true, saying that the Cretans are liars. Saying that the Cretans are liars, Epimenides is himself a liar, and what he says is untrue. Thus we may go on alternately proving that Epimenides and the Cretans are truthful and untruthful.
What?
Essentially, the truth of this statement is dependent on the abilities of Epimenides to tell the truth. However, you'll be happy to know that there is a solution to this one. The mistake that Fowler and many others make is assuming that if the statement all Cretans are liars is false, then that means that all Cretans are honest. But this isn't necessarily true. It simply means that there is at least one honest Cretan. In this way, assuming that Epimenides is wrong solves the paradox.
Whew, thank God for that.
Well, don't get too excited, because there are far more strict versions of the liar's paradox. For example, the statement, "this statement is false," is a paradox for the reasons I outlined earlier. But there's no way around this one. It simply alternates endlessly. Number 7. Crash. Consider a being of absolute power, one who is called omnipotent.
Wait a second. He's the one who cursed me to host this shitty show with you! No! Not thank God! Fuck God! I'm picturing it, and goddamn is he sexy.
Not you, idiot. This being can do anything that can be conceived of. Can such a being exist? The paradox of the stone suggests that this is impossible. If we were to ask this being to create a stone it cannot lift, then there would be one of two outcomes. Either the being is unable to create the stone, and hence is not omnipotent, or it can create the stone but then is unable to lift it, and hence becomes non-omnipotent.
But why would he want to create something he can't lift?
It's not about whether he wants to or not, it's about whether he is able to. But this paradox does have a workaround. The simplest way is to redefine what omnipotent means. If we take omnipotent to simply mean that an omnipotent being can accomplish any logical task, then the paradox of omnipotence is solved. Number 6. Talking about omnipotence reminds me of another paradox, the problem of evil. Essentially, the problem of evil attempts to reconcile the existence of a god who is all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-loving, with a world in which bad things happen. If God is all-loving, he would not let harm come to us if possible. Since he is all-powerful, there's no force of evil that could overcome him. And finally, since he's all-knowing, he should be aware of what is and isn't evil before it even comes into existence. And yet, there still exists evil, a logical contradiction.
Well, there is one easy solution. God doesn't exist.
Whoa, hold up, Crash. It's not as simple as that. Perhaps the evil we see in the world is necessary. Consider it tough love, if you will. A lot of the evil in the world stems from humans themselves. If God were to prevent us from making evil choices, then he would be stripping us of our free will, an act which is not all-loving since it denies us a basic right: freedom. In this way, it's possible for evil and God to coexist.
Or, and hear me out on this one, he just doesn't care about us.
That's possible too. There are actually a few ways out of this one. But the paradox still exists for true believers in an omniscient, omnipotent, and omnibenevolent God. Number 5. Okay, things get a little serious there, so let's switch to something more light-hearted. There are many paradoxes surrounding the word same, but let's just take a look at one famous example, the ship of Theseus. This particular form was first put forward by Plutarch, an ancient Greek historian and biographer. The paradox goes that the ship of Theseus slowly degrades, and over time its various parts are replaced with new parts. Eventually, the whole ship is composed of new parts, so the question is this the same ship?
Yeah, definitely. What a stupid question.
Jeez, way to ruin my fun. Okay, then try this one on. The philosopher Thomas Hobbes extended these thinkings later on, proposing that the original parts of the ship are later taken and put back together. We now have two ships, the one described previously, and this new ship made of the original parts. So which one is the original ship of Theseus?
I hate you sometimes. Scratch that. All the time. And this is dumb. The whole argument is based on the definition of the word same.
Good point. In fact, one philosophical belief is that all logical problems arise due to the inability of language to describe things as they are. Or another way of putting it, as provided by Austrian philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein, like everything metaphysical, the harmony between thought and reality is to be found in the grammar of the language. Number 4. Let's make it even simpler. No more complex word paradoxes. Let's talk about numbers, since I know how much you just love maths.
Oh yeah, awesome.
Yeah, anyway, this one is called the potato paradox, and it goes like this. You have 100 pounds of potatoes, which are 99% water by weight. You let them dehydrate until they're only 98% water. How much do they weigh now? You might think something like 99 pounds, but the real answer is 50 pounds. Think about it this way. In the original potatoes, there was 1 pound of solid material representing 1% of the mass of the potatoes. In the dehydrated potatoes, we know that there is still 1 pound of solid material, but that it now represents 2% of the total mass. For this statement to be true, 2% must be equal to 1 pound, and therefore 100% of the mass is 50 pounds. Even though the difference in percentage is quite small, the effect on mass is surprisingly large, making the problem counterintuitive. What do you think, Crash?
What? Oh, yeah, awesome. Numbers are cool and shit.
Number 3. I know you've probably heard this one before, Crash, but I had to include it because it's a classic. The Monty Hall problem.
Oh, yeah, the one with the goats and doors and all that. Groovy.
Yeah, nicely put. Essentially, you're on a game show where the host, Monty Hall, gives you 3 doors to pick from. 2 of the doors have goats behind them, and if you pick one of those doors, you lose. But if you pick the other door which has a car behind it, you win the car. But here's the catch. After you pick the door, Monty reveals one of the other doors, and he always reveals a door that has a goat behind it. He then offers you a choice. Do you want to stick with your original choice, or switch to the other unopened door?
It doesn't matter. It's a 50% chance either way. Ha! I figured out your little maths problem, bitch.
Actually, the answer is that you should always switch. The chance of switching and winning is 2 in 3. Whereas the chance of staying and winning is only 1 in 3. Before you get too confused, here's the simplest explanation. Imagine that in the first pick, you have a 1 in 3 chance of choosing correctly. This means that there's a 2 in 3 chance that one of the other doors has the car. Monty then reveals a goat behind one of them, setting that door's probability to 0. That means the other unchosen door now has to carry the full 2 in 3 chance of having the car, whilst your door only has a 1 in 3 chance. Hence, you should always switch. And don't even try to argue with this. A computer simulation produced by Andrew Visogni proved the problem in 1999.
I think I'd rather the goat. How fucking cool would it be to own your very own goat? Especially if it's that one from the Angry Ram channel. I'd have him headbutt everyone in the dick. and you'd be first, Culture.
I think you've missed the point. Number 2. Okay, this next one still confuses me a bit, so stick with me here. It's called the ant on a rubber rope, and it's a little bit like the potato paradox, in that the answer is counterintuitive. The problem is stated as so. An ant starts to crawl along a taut rubber rope 1 kilometer long at a speed of 1 centimeter per second, relative to the rubber it's crawling on. At the same time, the rope starts to stretch uniformly by 1 kilometer per second, so that after 1 second it's 2 kilometers long. After 2 seconds it's 3 kilometers long, etc. The question is, will the ant ever reach the end of the rope? Crash, can you do me the favor of saying the obviously incorrect answer?
No, it'll never reach the end of the rope.
Actually, it will. See, the key fact here is that the rope stretches uniformly. This means that the target point for the ant doesn't move 1 kilometer away every second, since the rope also stretches behind him. For example, once the ant is halfway across the rope stretches half a kilometer behind him and half a kilometer ahead of him. In this way, the ant's movement relative to the rope forms a divergent series, with the ant eventually reaching the end. This problem always has the same solution as long as the ant's speed and the rope's rate of stretching remains constant.
Nope, you're wrong. Sorry, buddy. I just looked it up, and at that rate, the ant would take this long to complete. That's much longer than the age of the universe, so I doubt the ant would live that long.
Jeez, and you say that I take this stuff too seriously. Number 1. The missing dollar has got to be my favorite paradox because it seems so simple. And even once I had the answer explained to me, it still seemed wrong on some level. So here's how the problem goes. 3 guests check into a hotel and are told the bill for their room is $30. The guests pay $10 each to the clerk. However, the clerk later realizes that the room was only $25, and so he gives $5 to the bellhop to return to the guests. The bellhop, realizing that $5 does not divide evenly, decides to pocket $2 and give $1 back to each of the guests. Now the guests have effectively paid $9 each, and the bellhop has $2, making a total of $29. The question is, where's the missing dollar? Take a second to pause the video and try to figure it out yourself.
Oh, sick. The video's paused. I can go get myself a snack. You want anything, buddy?
They're still going to hear that, you know. So here's the solution, and it's so simple you'll kick yourself. There's no problem here. We simply added the amounts incorrectly. There's a basic rule of accounting. Never add credits to debits. The problem arises from us adding the money values together incorrectly. We should instead add as so. The guests pay a credit of $27 to the hotel, and we then subtract 2 debits. There are $25 with the clerk and $2 with the bellhop. Hence, there's no money left. But what about the original $30? Well, we can add the money up differently to explain that as well. The guests pay a credit of $30. There is a debit of $25 with the clerk, $2 with the bellhop, and $3 back with the guests. As long as you add up the money correctly, there's no issue.
So easy. Can't believe you didn't understand that, Culture.
Huh, weird. That's exactly what the comment section of this video is going to sound like. But hey, if you guys feel like leaving something positive down below instead, or maybe some other cool paradoxes, that'd be awesome too.
Follow CultureCrash on social media! Like and subscribe for more!
If you would like to support the show, then head on over to the CultureCrash Patreon page where you can receive rewards for your support. Every bit counts.